Welcome back to the Star Monroe Show. This is part 4 of the Wild Love Affair, my exclusive 12-part series on coming home to yourself through embodiment, devotional living, and deeper intimacy. And I'm very excited today to dive deeper into why most identity work doesn't work and what does. And before we dive into that topic, I wanted to share from my heart to yours a little bit more about what embodiment, devotional living, and deeper intimacy mean to me. Because we hear these words bandied around a lot. And unless we have like this resonance with the word, it tends to float off into the ethers. So for me, embodiment means really living what I say I believe. And you'll hear me talk more about this in today's episode because we come into this world whole and beautifully us. And before, even when we were in our mother's tummy, and as we're being made from the egg and the sperm, we are bound into generational lineage. We then have the claws of our society dug into us. And then we pick up all sorts of conditioning, beliefs, rules, regulations that aren't ours. And you get to a period in life, and it's normally is mid 40s and above, where you either look around your life and you go, oh my God, yeah, I'm happy, everything's great. Or you're looking around your life going, what is happening here? Who am I? Why am I doing this? Why am I with this person? Why am I acting like this? And so there's certain periods of our lives, I call them rite of passages, that really call our attention to how we're showing up and questioning the conditioning, questioning the generational lineage, the beliefs that we've taken on board. So if I bring this back to embodiment, this is really the purest sense of my work. I'm here to guide you back to who you really are before the world got its claws into you. And so this means unbinding yourself. Always, whenever I talk about this, always imagine a big ball of wool all tangled up and pulled tight. And it's like we're going into that ball of wool and we're gently unraveling the knots and where we're bound, and we're creating more space. Oh my God, yes, this is so beautiful. We're creating more space between ourselves and our conditioning and our beliefs so that we can pause and take a breath and look at this belief, at this conditioning, and go, is this me? Or is this somebody else? Somebody else's rules and regulations and beliefs. And so this work is, I'm laughing to myself. I've literally just explained the whole episode in that line. It's literally the unbinding of ourselves to create more space, and we do it gently so we can look, so we can have more discernment about what is ours and what is not ours. And as we shift through these layers of who we think we are, and there is this red thread, I call it the red thread theory. And the red threads are pulling you back to yourself. And that is always there. And this is when you feel you are in alignment with yourself, when you stop that internal war with yourself. And so embodiment comes from that, from releasing these patternings, releasing these beliefs, so you can live in alignment with who you are and you live it. You actually are a living, breathing example of what you believe. So when I say embodiment, and it's so coming home to yourself through embodiment, that's what I mean. And then the other word I talk about is devotional living. And devotional living is one of my books that I read every single morning is the Gene Keys, and they have a beautiful definition of the word devotion. And it was funny because I was just scrolling through my memories today on Facebook. I was like, oh, there it is. I shared it many, many years ago. Devotion is commitment gone mad. Take a moment with that. Devotion is commitment gone mad. It's mad in the sense that you have to leave the order of your mind. And last week's or the last episode of the Star Monroe Show, I talked about why intellect got you here, but it's not going to get you to where you go. So it's mad in the sense that you have to leave the order of your mind to enter into the wilderness of your heart. And I'm going to add in and soul. Your heart and your soul. Your mind is going to keep you intellectualizing everything, trying to find a logical, rational explanation. And it's also going to want its goodies. It's going to want a path, a linear path as well. And when you're on this journey of coming back to yourself, it's the same as the healing journey. It is not linear. It is messy. You go forward, you go back, you go side, you go down, you go up, you go zigzagging all over the place. And this is the journey. And I think I talk about it in today's episode. I was putting my crib notes together earlier. But the only destination, the firm destination we've got is death. And everything in between birth and death is a process. Think about it like a wild love affair. Oh, my book. Think about it like a love affair, a huge adventure that we're on. So that's what I mean by devotion. Devotion is commitment gone mad. You're committed to yourself. You stop the war with yourself. You embody where you are right here, right now. And then deeper intimacy is where you're truly intimate. Truly intimate. And to be truly intimate, you must be totally honest with yourself. And you be willing to accept and express your deepest fears. This means being vulnerable. This means walking through the world. And I know this can be a challenge for some of us, me included, with your heart and mind open. With your heart and mind open. And I'll use an example. Bear in mind, we haven't even got into the episode today. I'm only on like explaining the depth of my terms here. I was having dinner last night with my son. And just in case you don't know, I have an adult son. He lives here in Turkey with me. We've had a rocky relationship. I was an addict when he was younger. And we're at the stage in our lives where we are slowly, very slowly, my ego wants it to go way faster. But we're very slowly recommitting back to co-creating a healthier relationship between both of us. And last night over dinner, I couldn't quite express what was going on for me, but he has been in his own world, pulled away. And the polarity between people, when one pulls away, we tend to go forward into that. It's an energetic exchange. And I wasn't really expressing, I didn't really know what was going on for me. I just knew that I was finding it very uncomfortable that he pulled away. And I didn't understand why. And he was telling me And it took a while for us, and we ended up having a little heated discussion. And then he said, I don't understand why this matters so much to you. And all of a sudden, what bubbled up inside me was, I said, I miss you. I miss our relationship that we are building. I miss talking to you. And that was the truth. And that was my vulnerable share. And that actually, it softened the communication between us. And we actually, he heard me and I heard him. And why am I sharing this with you? Because that is me speaking my vulnerable truth. And preceding that vulnerable truth at the dinner table was me being agitated and kind of, I could feel I was getting defensive, but I just couldn't kind of figure out what was going on for me. And yet I was glad and happy that we sat there and I were able to navigate our heated discussion, because eventually we came to the truth. And it was that I missed the relationship that we were cultivating. And so this is what deeper intimacy is. Uncomfortable, especially if you're used to closing off, shutting down, being the ice queen, not sharing or feeling your emotions. So deeper intimacy takes time. And yet, throughout my years, 35 plus years now of working with women, the one thing that women crave, the one thing that women always say they want to be, I'm going to say it's one thing, but I'm going to unflower it, is they crave intimacy, they crave connection, they crave to be seen, heard, valued, and understood. And yet we can't have that with another until we have it with ourselves. So this series that I'm sharing, which is the beautiful companion to my book, My Wild Love Affair, it's available now on Amazon, is all about this coming home to who you really are, which is a continuous journey. And it is about embodiment. It's about embodying who you're here to be, that alignment, that feeling of like, oh, yeah, you know, that feeling when you're home. It's like, yeah, it's safe to be me. It's safe to be here. Devotional living, commitment gone mad, living from the heart, living from the soul, really committed to yourself, and deeper intimacy, honest conversations, honest communication. So as I've just said, this 12-part series is the companion to my latest book. And my book is where I document my continuing, I know I've said it already, I'm going to say it again, my continuing journey back home to myself. Because I don't know how long you've been in my world. And you could have been in my world for 15 years, been on this journey for a long time, 6 years. You could just be entering my world today. But I have been coming back home, and I believe I will be continuing coming back home to myself until the day I take my last breath on this realm. So it's a continuing journey back home to myself, because this is the process we're in of unraveling. And it is the unbinding of our beliefs, our conditioning, our generational lineage. And if you think for a moment about that, that is what shaped who you are. That's what shaped who I am. And then who we are, because whoever we are, and this is why I say the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. The relationship we have with ourselves shapes everything around us. Everything. Think about you dropping a pebble into a still lake and all the ripples coming from that pebble. You're in the middle. So everything around you is happening through your lens. And so this journey, it really is a deep journey. It's about listening inwards, finding that red thread and following it back home to yourself. And in the previous episodes of the Star Monroe Show, of this series in particular, the Wild Love Affair, I've talked and introduced you to my unique methodology, which is called the Star Monroe method. And it's, let's say, a 5 or 6 step, but I wouldn't even say it's a step. The way I created it, if you see a let me see if I can find it in the book, because if you're watching me on YouTube, I can show you. But I did it in a spiral, because even now, once I've written the book and I find myself where I am in my life right now, I'm like, oh, I'm going through the spiral again. And so I'm sharing it online if you can see me on YouTube. And so I did it as a spiral, and it's a 6-step framework, method, and it goes through rupture, recognition. So I've talked about rupture and recognition. Today we're going to talk about rewrite. And then you move into realignment, reclamation, and move into the wild love affair. And the way that I look at this is that I'm deepening. The more I release what's no longer mine, and the more I claim and live out, embody what is mine, the deeper I embody into my wild love affair, which is 100% available for you too. Life isn't here for us to be at war with ourselves. Life isn't here for us to be out of alignment and to. I was thinking about this in the week. Like, we're not here to be confined in a box and live out a life according to everybody else's rules and regulations. We're here to live our own rhythm. And if you've been in my world as I've gently come back from having my break online and from my business, you'll hear me talk about rhythm. It's really important that you live a life according to your rhythm, and I live a life according to my rhythm. So if I bring you back to what we've covered already, it's a snapshot. I've talked about the first stage of the method, the spiral, and it's rupture. It always starts with a rupture. Rupture is where we're living and how we're feeling. It's out of sync. It's like you could be saying a plethora of things, but it could be, is this all there is? There feels like there's something wrong, but it doesn't look like there's anything wrong, but it feels like it. It's going to be originating in your body first. Your body may even be telling you by tight shoulders, headaches, tummy problems, the way that you feel you're not flowing effortlessly through the world. Your body will be saying something to you. And my clients that come into my world, they live in their heads. They're clever, they're smart, they're intelligent. They're used to intellectualizing everything. And so this is where your intellectualizing kind of is asked to take a back seat. And this portal rupture is asking you to look inwards, not outwards, look inwards and feel. So it's less about doing, it's more about feeling and being, which is, I'm in the throes of this now in my own life. And it's a whole new way of living. It really is. So rupture is where it starts. And at that point, you could decide to ignore your misalignment and the way that you would probably ignore it. And I've been here many years ago. I carried on drinking. I carried on with loads of distractions. That would be dating the wrong men, working harder, getting lost in my anxiety, just kind of worrying about the future. So I'm letting my mind be in control of me rather than I'm in control of my mind. What else did I used to do? Drugs, shopping, all sorts of things. Drinking. Did I say drinking? So there's lots of things that we can do to numb out this misalignment. Yet this misalignment never goes away. It sits there just waiting for us to greet it, to welcome it in as an old friend. And otherwise, if we don't, then what tends to happen, it gets louder and louder and louder to catch our attention. So that could be, I've had myself 3 mental breakdowns. I've had 3 mental breakdowns where my body has just stopped and go, we cannot carry on with this. I've had times in my life where everything has fallen apart to catch my attention. My body has failed, broken, like I had a slipped disc once. So your body will be telling you. And so now, like I'm way further away from my destructive years, I am much more finely tuned to these signals in my body. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I still don't want to acknowledge them, but yet I know that my body speaks the truth. What's that book? The Body Never Lies. Is it by Bessel? Is it Bessel? Or is it by Gabor Mate? I could look right now, but I'm going to stay on task. So the body never lies. And if you stay in your mind, you will be driving yourself crazy. So there is always a portal to walk through. And then when you walk through the portal of rupture, you walk into the portal of recognition. And this is what I was talking about in the last episode. And this is when you bring your awareness to your habits and patterns. I call them patterns. You might call them habits, interchangeable. This is where you bring your attention, your awareness to what you're doing without the urgency of fixing or solving them. And all of the portals in my method of coming home to yourself, every single portal, every single stage requires soul lessons that you can only learn when you show up and do things differently. They require your patience. Guess what patience requires? Patience. They require grace, and grace, again, comes through practice. They require compassion. I remember years ago, this was many years ago, probably over 10, 12 years ago now, I was sitting having drinks with a friend, and he turned and looked at me. He's not the first person who said it, but I do remember this conversation. I remember exactly where we were, and he went, "You're so hard on yourself." And I looked him in his eyes and I went, this is nothing. Like, how the hell are you going to get on and do stuff in life if you're not hard on yourself? And so compassion is a skill I've learned and continue to learn with myself. And actually bringing a little bit more personal information into this, witnessing my son here with me in Turkey, he hasn't learned compassion with himself because I never modeled it to him when he was younger. So I can sit in that. I can berate myself. I can guilt. I can shame myself. And yet my job is to hold myself with that and say, what can I do today? And my job today is to treat myself. I'm embodied in the beliefs I have, and treat myself with compassion. Makes me want to cry when I say that. So this is, can you see how the embodiment starts to happen? So all the portals are asking you to see yourself through a deeper lens. As one's going to lead into the other. As I said, that you could fall off completely off the spiral of coming into your wild love affair. You can go backwards, you can go forwards, you can go sideways, you can pause, you can do nothing, and it's all part and parcel of the process. So this all leads us into today's portal, which is entitled Rewrite. And if you've listened, and if you haven't listened to, I get my bossy teacher voice on, I can hear it come in there. If you haven't listened to previous episodes of the Wild Love Affair, I would invite you to listen to them because they're building upon each other. And I talked last week about me. I recognized the rupture. I recognized that my life was out of kilter. It looked great, but it didn't feel great. And the symptoms for that was I was drinking, I was dating men I didn't respect. They didn't respect me back either. And from there, because I was willing to sit with that and go, oh, this isn't working, I then opened up my awareness. And it's like this domino effect. And what happened for me was I was really intently on a path to elevate my standards, amplify my self-worth. And I knew that I had to do that by how I showed up for myself. It wasn't anything external, although I did get wrapped up with the external world as well. And that's, I feel like I'm extracting myself from that this year. But I knew it was an internal job on how I treated myself. And again, it's the embodiment, what I believe, and actually living a life. So for me, it meant that I stopped dating, I stopped drinking, and like this domino effect. And then I sort of started to have heightened awareness of the patterns that were running the show. And what I realized, when I was talking about it last week, that I was in the gym and I noticed I was still seeking external validation from a man. And the thought that went through my head is, I wonder if he's looking at me. I wonder if he's looking at me. And I was knee deep at the time in a practice of decentering men. And so I really noticed it. And then that kind of had a knock-on effect of, I was just like, wow, ever since I've been a young girl, I have been seeking men's approval so I can be me. So, they needed to see me. So I knew I was lovable and acceptable. So that started this kind of, the rupture got a little deeper and the sort of tectonic plates in me started to shift. And then this brought me to this place of rewriting and rewriting. And this is where identity work comes in, because there's a book and it's called Psycho-Cybernetics. Can I remember his name? Maxwell Maltz. Maxwell Maltz. You're going to find it if you put Psycho-Cybernetics in. He's the granddaddy of identity work. And what identity work says is, if you want to change your outer world, you've got to change who you are in the inside. And so I was doing that work on myself. I was doing changing, as I've said, really noticing how I was showing up and going deeper and deeper into these patterns. And that's what it requires you to do. And it's not just a one and done process. And this is, if you are to follow anybody online, this is how they will sell you identity work. You just do X, Y, Z, and ABC is going to happen. And it's not. It's not going to happen like that. And it sets people up to fail, because They are following a process. I just need to do this, change how I think about myself, change how I act. But if you don't make it happen, or you flummox along the way, you think you're the problem. You're not the problem. You're not the problem. It's because it requires more depth. And as I said, more compassion, more grace, more patience. Because when I remember what I said about that red ball right at the beginning, of the podcast today, that it's tangled up. This is what you are presented with when you start to do identity work. You've got this big ball of wool that's tightly bound, lots of knots in it. And what it requires is this slow patience of unwinding yourself from the ball so you can undo the knots of the conditioning, the lineage, your beliefs. Because if you force yourself, ego, if you force yourself here, if you push through, then that ball of wool, this is who you are, is going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. And what you'll end up doing is doing surface layer changes. I'm going further ahead of myself because I'm going to repeat this. But you're going to make surface level changes that do not last. So this is what happens, and this is my experience when I've worked with women and see them in the spheres that I've worked in over the years. This is where, at the point of rewrite, most women stop, because they will catch the pattern, the habit, and they may even name it. If you've been in therapy, if you're in my world, then I know that you're already self-aware. So you've probably been to therapy, in therapy, done some deep coaching. So you can probably name your pattern. But here's what happens is they don't change how they live. They keep doing the same patterns, the same habits, which are always the symptoms of something deeper, because staying with what's uncomfortable, and this is the work, staying with what's uncomfortable is harder. But this is where your transformation lays. This is where rewrite sits. This is the portal that actually sounds really simple. Yeah, I just rewrite who I am. This is who I'm becoming. It sounds easy, but it's not, because this is actually asking so much more from you. And when you give it that commitment, the devotion gone mad, like commitment gone mad, this is where you change, because your awareness will lead you. This is where your awareness leads you, and it's going to open up a new doorway into you. And you cannot, sitting here on my ivory tower, you cannot rush the process. Or it's probably a better way to say this is, you become more aware of the parts of you that want to rush it, and you welcome that part of you in, because there are parts of you that are going to want to rush, that want to figure this out. And so it is about slowing all the way down. And this is why I said, people will rush this. People will, I'm becoming this, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to act like it, I'm going to speak like it. But it only touches the surface level. And that's why their transformation doesn't last in 12 weeks, 3 months, 6 months. Soon as something like life throws a curveball, they go back to their old patterning. It's not sustainable because it hasn't become them. My work is about you becoming this new version. And this is what I'm here to guide you into. It's deep. And when we do this work, it lives in a different realm to you. It lives in your psyche. It lives in your body, your mannerisms. Think about it. The way that you shrug your shoulder when you say you don't mind, the way your chest tightens when your partner ignores you, the way you start to rush through your days because underneath you're feeling really uncertain and a little bit frightened of what the next step is because you don't know what it is. Your body will always tell you what is going on. Rewrite is not the rewriting of what is obvious. It's being willing to see yourself deeper than ever before. And you don't get to rewrite your life in the big moments. I'm trying to give you an example. Let's go superficial. Big moments. All right, finishing the relationship, divorcing the partner you've been talking about. Oh, yeah, this is good actually. So a big moment could be divorce. Yeah, I'm done. Walk out of that. How many times have you seen this with your friends? They walk out of that relationship. They think that they've done the work because they've walked away, but they haven't done any work on themselves. So they end up in another relationship that mirrors the first relationship. You will always attract who you are. So the work is, yes, you make the big change. Where it is, you move abroad, you divorce, you close the business down, whatever it is. And then you have to work on your inner world to understand why you attracted that into your world in the first place, why you built it, how you built it, what foundations you built it from. Was it proving? Was it survival, getting away from something? Was it performing? Was it, this is why you've got to understand your motivators. What drives you? Is it your ego? Is it your wounded self? Is it your soul? Is it your heart and soul? So you don't rewrite your life in the big moments. You can make huge changes in big moments, but you don't rewrite it. You do it in the small, quiet choices no one ever sees. So this is the micro choices that you make in every single day. It's how you talk to yourself. It's how you hold yourself when you don't know the answers. It's about when you choose to do things differently. Say that, let's use me, for example. I shut my business down at the beginning of the year, and I took my first break from work where I've had no work for the first time since I've been 14, 15. So I wasn't working full time when I was 14, 15, but I have been working at jobs, businesses since I've been 14. So if we're being pedantic, ever since I was 18, running my first business. This year at 53 at the time, maybe I was 54, no, I was 53. It was my first time ever taking I chose to not work, to take time off, to spend it on me. And it felt, I'm going to talk about this in another time, so I don't want to dive into it too much. But it's been really uncomfortable. It's been really nice. I've had lots of time to spend on myself, resting, but it's been really fucking uncomfortable. Really fucking uncomfortable. Because what I realized this year, after doing this work, like I said, it's a process. It doesn't just finish because, I wrote the book or, I moved on or I changed my business. It continues. What I realized is I created a life from my identity was wrapped up in doing. And I'm like, do you want that? Is this what you want as you go ahead in your life? And I'm like, no, I want to be. I want to be me. Because in that doing, I ended up performing. And I still see myself doing it now. And it's like I perform online. And so it's like, you're doing it again. So it's like the work continues. So it's cultivating the willingness and the ability to stay in awareness with yourself, because this is what opens you up to real transformation. And I'm in process now doing it. It's really messy, it's uncomfortable. And yet part of me wants to carry on doing what I've always done. And the other part of me is like, there's many parts of us, but I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And so I have to sit with the uncomfortability of not doing that. It requires discernment and dedication to wade through what is ours and what isn't. And so in the book, because as I said, this podcast is a companion to the book. It's like I'm diving in, and also I'm further on now than the book. I'm even me writing this book gave me another little springboard to dive in deeper to me. So from awareness is the spark. That's the recognition. As you move into rewrite, this is the observation. This is the observation of all your patterns, and it requires us to be slower, deeper. It's the practice of staying. I've just explained it. Staying with what you see without rushing to change it, to fix it, to explain it away. Oh, it's the art of holding yourself steady in the space. I just realized what the words I'm saying to you is so important. It's the art of holding yourself steady in the space between who you've been and who you're becoming, without forcing yourself across the gap too soon, without scrambling to make it neat or impressive. Hold my hand up. There's a part of me that's a perfectionist. I've been tapped into her for the last couple of years. So she's alive, she's pulsing. So it's just like slowly extracting myself from her. Observation, the rewrite. Observation sits in rewrite. It's asking something harder of you and me. It asks us to stay, to witness, to breathe, to trust that noticing is enough for now. And in the book, in the book, I shared more. I shared a little bit more about the parts that were coming up for me a couple of years ago. And even now, it's like these younger parts of me, the perfectionist part of me, the part of me that believes that we get our worth and value from doing, from being busy all the time. And I only have to look, and I look with compassion and kindness to my mother. My mum is of the generation that she doesn't feel. Don't feel her emotions. Why would I go to a psychotherapist? What do I want to talk about my problems for? Talk therapy is one snippet. There's so much more once she gets past talk therapy and you move into the body. But I grew up with an emotionally unavailable mother. I take it on my chin. I was emotionally unavailable for my son. And yet also, here's the paradox in this. Human beings hate change, and yet we're so well built for change. We're so well built for change. We can adapt so beautifully. And so now, as I'm moving through my 50s, it's like I'm changing who I am. I'm changing who I am as a mother to myself and a mother to my son as well. And so it's as you observe and you give yourself that space, so that twisted red ball of wool that you are inside you with all the knots, it just starts to open up. So when you look around online and people are luring you into these dramatic reinvention of selves, the phoenix from the ashes rising, burn it all down and start again. Gosh, when I look at that, and I've taught that, I've been in there, I've done this, and there are some good parts to that, yet anything that dramatic, forceful, is going to jar your beautiful system. And as I said, yeah, there'll be a transformation, but the quicker, the harder, the faster you go, you will encounter a relapse. Always think about it like an elastic band. You pull it, you pull it, you pull it. At some point, it's going to snap. And that's what we're like. And so when you decide that you really want to change who you are, come back home to yourself, align yourself to the red thread, to your soul, to your heart, this is where the devotion comes in. This is where the patience comes in, because as you're coming back to who you are, you want all parts of your psyche on board. Otherwise, At some point in the future, they are going to cause a ruckus. Joe Didion said it brilliantly. She says, otherwise, they turn up unannounced and surprise us, come hammering on the mind's door at 4 a.m. of a bad night and demand to know who deserted them, who betrayed them, who is going to make amends. We forget all too soon the things we thought we could never forget. This is about really when you're changing, it's slow, gentle. You don't want to jar your system. You want change that is slow, that becomes you, that you walk into. That if part of you rises its hackles, a perfectionist, a wounded inner child, the rebellious teenager, the 20-year-old that was traumatized through a relationship, you want to go so slowly that you can hear and feel and take good care of these parts. This is where my work takes center stage. I'm not for everyone. Do you see that? If you're on YouTube, do you see my shrug then? I just noticed that shrug. I'm going to say that again. My work is not for everyone. It's for the ones who are seeking that depth. It's for the ones who are willing to tell themselves the truth and face their fears when all parts of her want to flee. It's about staying in the unknown, the uncertainty, and not allowing the ego to force and push and cajole its way forward. This is how it all starts to shift. And this is the moment that separates those that intellectualize their growth from those that live it. The moment where awareness, through awareness, recognition, rewrite, observation, becomes embodiment. Doesn't happen through forcing, trying harder, I'm going to do more. It happens through being in the present moment with yourself, through holding your standards that you said that you have, through devotion, commitment gone mad. It happens when you stop negotiating with yourself. And it happens when you choose to stay gently, quietly, one decision at a time. In next week's episode, because it's over there apparently, we dive deeper into the next portal, which is realignment. This is where you begin practicing your truth in real time. And in the meantime, if you're on this soul's journey with me, purchase my beautiful book, My Wild Love Affair. It is on Amazon, paperback, hardback, Kindle. It's an active mirror to where you are in life right now. If you are intrigued, you feel the pull to practice this in real life, devotional living, join the waitlist for the School of Devotional Living. I said that around the wrong way. We start in September, and it's a small cohort, 25 women, for 3 months. It's a 3-month immersion where we're going to really deepen into living in devotion to yourself. And if you are indeed done abandoning yourself to maintain love and success, done proving, done performing, done the doing, doesn't mean that you have to lay down a navel gaze. You can continue your life and do this inward journey as well. That's the beauty of this work. And the deeper you go in, the deeper your connections are going to become out. If you're acquiring honest intimacy and a life where you wake up every morning and you're like, yay, this is my life. I get to live this. A life that deeply reflects who you are. Then apply for private mentorship. Everything you need is in the show notes. Until next time, in devotion.